What's up, y'all? It's Ty. In this video today, we're going to be going over ranking each and every one of our best safeties right now in College Football 25 Ultimate Team. Now, when making this list, included everybody that was an 87 overall or higher. So if you're running like an 86 overall, I'm not saying that they can't play or anything. They just don't make your top safeties in the game right now. And again, that's just my personal opinion and kind of where I decided to have that cutoff point. But again, there's nothing wrong if you guys are running an 86 overall if you really are balling on a budget. However, if you logged in every single day, you got Caleb Downs, or every single week, you got Caleb Downs, who is one of your best safeties in the entire game. So let's start it off with Anthony Wilson. And a lot of these 87 overalls, I'm probably not going to be super high on. Although some of them I think are going to be really solid. So let's start at Anthony Wilson, 87 overall. Here's what you're looking at: 87 speed, decent acceleration, change of direction is good, zone coverage is good. The problem is he's only 5'9". I do believe there are worse safeties in the game for sure than Anthony Wilson, but if you are only 5'9", it's tough for me to think of you as being in that elite type of category. Now, I do like Anthony Wilson as far as his own safety. Decent zone coverage, decent speed, change of direction is good. Just think there are better cards. Like a better card, example, Exhibit A, is Brian Branch. This card's got 87 speed, good acceleration, good zone coverage, good change of direction. I think Brian Branch, he's not perfect, but I do think the card is just a tier above a guy like Anthony Wilson. Again, a lot of this is ultimately preference based, who you personally prefer to run between the couple of cards. I think Branch just gives you slightly more as far as a coverage type of guy. Caleb Downs, if you're running 87 Caleb Downs at this stage of the game, I mean, yikes. He's just way overpriced. 86 speed, 85 acceleration, good in coverage. But again, he's just not super fast. And that's the one thing I really see with this Caleb Downs is the speed leaves a lot to be desired. And honestly, I think Anthony Wilson, because of that speed rating, is just as good. So for me, 87 Caleb Downs is fine. I just think Anthony Wilson and especially Brian Branch are just that slightly better. Next up, guys, we do see free safety Craig Woodson. I think he's probably our first B tier option. Like, the card's definitely okay. He's definitely a card that can compete. The thing for me is he's not perfect. 87 speed again for an 89 overall. Like, these 87s got 87 speed. Does have 87 acceleration, good change of direction, good in coverage, and he is 6 feet tall. And he plays the run a lot better. So, do I think Craig Woodson is an elite safety? No, but he is a solid safety in the game. Corey Thomas Jr., when this card came out, was so good for his time. The problem is that time has came, that time has went. He only has 85 speed. Yes, man coverage is good, change of direction's okay. But if you don't have that good a speed, I mean, you're D tier. You're not, in my opinion, horrible, but D tier is as high as I can go with the card. Devin Neal, I'm just not a big fan of Devin Neal, and I'll explain why here in a second. 87 speed, decent acceleration, the agility, change of direction are not great. You look at a card with 78 change of direction, with 78 man coverage and 75 zone coverage. How am I supposed to hype up a card like Devin Neal? The card ultimately is just not great. I mean, coverage-wise, he's horrible, but he's decently fast. I guess I'll go C tier just in case you want to stop the run, but man, do not love the card. Dan Jackson, I think, is going to be our first A tier caliber safety in this game. When I look at Dan Jackson, you're looking at a card with 89 speed, 88 acceleration. He's 6'1". He's perfect in zone coverage. If you play a lot of zone coverage, there's not going to be many better safeties than Dan Jackson. There's just not. The card is an absolute beast. Good as speed. Great in zone coverage, especially 6'1". I don't know how people do not like Dan Jackson. I think the card is super complete in College Football Ultimate Team. Caleb Downs, your first S tier cards. And here's the deal. This card gets cheaper every week, you know, or I don't want to say he gets cheaper every week, but every time that the game of the week like set drops, he's going to get cheaper because there's just going to be extra guys that get him. This card's nearly perfect in the game. And if you have Caleb Downs, I'll say it like this: there's no reason for you to run any other safety. There's just not. He's got 91 speed. He's got 92 acceleration. His change of direction's an 88. Zone coverage 92. Great tackler, 6 feet tall. Like, he is so good, so complete. There's just no other reason to really pick up any other safety in the game. Genuinely, if you have Caleb Downs, that's where I'm at with the card. And look, I'm not saying like the card is perfect, but I'm saying he's perfect. I mean, maybe I wish his speed was a little bit higher, but he's definitely an S tier caliber card. Ed Reed's interesting. Like, and when I say this, I want you guys to hear me out. I love the 90 overall Ed Reed. I think the 90 overall Ed Reed is just an absolute stud on this game. However, when we talk about the budget Ed Reeds, I'm not super high on them. So let's take a look at exactly what I'm talking about here. The 90 overall Ed Reed has 90 speed, whereas the 88 overall Ed Reed only has 85 speed. The 87 has 84 speed. And so sure, this Ed Reed is A tier, but if we're talking about the other Ed Reeds, I've got D tier and then I've got F tier. He's got 85 speed and he's just not very good. And so I'm not trying to sit here and if you're running Ed Reed, say he's bad, especially the 90 overall Ed Reed because I like the card. But the other Ed Reeds, I'm not super high on. I'm going A tier, D tier, and F tier for Ed Reeds. Amari Farrell, maybe your best strong safety. There's no maybe about it. He is your best strong safety in the entire game. The problem with Farrell is he is 1 million coins on this game. So like, as much as I like Amari Farrell, as much as I wish I had the card and could run the card, it's just not realistic, genuinely. Like, I like the card, but it's not realistic for 1 million coins. 6'2", 92 speed, 95 acceleration, 86 zone coverage, great in the run. Change of direction's obviously not perfect, but man, Amari Farrell is an absolute beast in this game. Definitely S tier. Clint Dix at this stage, he's not great, but he's not horrible. And so if I'm you guys and let's say you're running that's fine. He can absolutely play, but he's not an elite card. For his time, he was good though. The problem was he was always expensive. And then he just, I don't know, he was just always hard to obtain, I feel like, until, you know, people just surpassed him and got better and better. He can play, though. He's fine. I'm going to go D tier. Gerard Hollyman. I don't know if I should go C tier, but I want to go C tier. Like, genuinely, Hollyman was so good for his time, man. If you wanted a guy to just play coverage, it didn't get much better than this card. 87 speed, 86 acceleration, great in man coverage, great in zone coverage. Again, if you just wanted a coverage type of safety, it does not get much better than Gerard Hollyman. Just did it at such an elite level. I'm going C tier still to this day, and honestly, kind of want to put him at B tier because coverage-wise, the card is still elite on this game. Hunter Wohler up next. I've got Hunter Wohler, and the reason I've got Hunter Wohler is because I got him out of a free pack, but he's solid, especially if you play man coverage. Wohler's an absolute beast. Wish change of direction was higher, but 86 man coverage, 6'2", 89 speed, 90 acceleration. There's just not much to dislike about Hunter Wohler on this game. I'm going A tier. Next up, Isaac Gifford. I don't know, man. A lot of these cards, especially the new cards, the new 87s, they're just not that great. Like, Gifford's actually pretty solid because he's got decent speed, decent man coverage, decent catch. But, like, even him compared to Hollyman, Hollyman's coverage is just better. He's faster. He's got better coverage stats. Gifford's fine, though, because he can play the run decently, decent pursuit. I'm going to throw Gifford at C tier. I actually kind of like the card. Ramsey up next. When Ramsey came out, I didn't love the card, but he actually was super cheap from the moment he came out. 86 speed, decent acceleration, and he's good in zone coverage. Good change of direction, great in zone coverage. So look, if you need a zone coverage safety, Ramsey can play. I think he's, I don't know, is he as good as Craig Woodson? I think he is. I'm going to put Ramsey at B tier because, again, if you play zone coverage, he's a beast. Lamiles Brooks, he's B tier as well. I still run him if I do run a zone coverage type of set because here's the deal. If you run zone coverage, he's a beast. He's 6'2", 88 speed, 91 acceleration, great change of direction, and great in zone coverage. If you run zone coverage for your safeties nearly every single play, Lamiles Brooks, it doesn't get much better than him. I still think Wohler, Dan Jackson are just slightly more complete than the card. Hook up next. Another safety, again, as far as these 87s, I'm going to rank them because some of you guys might need to use them. But his coverage stats stink. His change of direction stinks. He's going to go D tier because he still has 87 speed, but the card is not great. Malachi Starks, you're going to go in B tier. Although I do want to say this, I really like Malachi Starks. To me, he's a better version of Hollyman, right? A better version of him. Going to play great in coverage. I'm moving him to A tier. I don't care. He's perfect in coverage. Great speed. Good change of direction. He's 6'1". Starks to me is A tier. Seigel up next. I think B tier for Seigel. And some people might think Seigel is better than Starks. Now, I'll break it down and talk about him because he could possibly be. But the thing about him is, if you're going to play man coverage, the card's not great. I do think he is better than Lamiles Brooks when you're comparing the cards side by side, though. So I guess I'll drag Seigel to A tier. Make sure if you're running this card, you're running zone coverage. It's really that simple, that easy for the card. Stroman up next, and here's where things get difficult. Because I don't think Stroman is good enough to throw at S tier. Although the strong safety position is so weak right now. Like 90 speed is nice. Change of direction is nice. He's 6'1", solid in coverage. I mean, I guess he's got 90 speed. He's at the very last part of S tier. And he's not worth the price, but I think I've got to put the card at S tier. Although I really don't want to. John Saunders Jr. up next is an absolute stud on this game. And I'll rank the cards at S tier because I think it is relevant. He's got 93 speed, 94 acceleration, perfect in zone coverage. Now, I will say this. His change of direction's low, and his man coverage is low. So if you are one to not play zone coverage, Saunders Jr. is not the option for you. If you are one to play zone coverage, he is an absolute beast. I think he is better than Amari Farrell when you do compare the stats. Tysheem Johnson, he's not horrible on this game. He's just another one of these decent strong safeties in the game. Like, good in coverage, but the problem is he's only 5'10". Great in coverage, great in run support. I actually don't mind Tysheem Johnson. The more I look at the card, the more I kind of like him. A tier. He is just really undersized. Honey Badger at this stage, I do not love. And for his time, he was good. But it's at this stage, it's just like he is so undersized. And we just have gotten better and better cards. Perfect in zone coverage, good change of direction, but he's only 5'9". I guess I'll go B tier. I'll go B tier. If Tysheem Johnson's going to go A tier, Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger's got to go B tier. Rucker at this stage, I don't know, man. Again, another one of these 87 overalls. It's tough for these guys to be great, and he's not great. He's solid in zone coverage, but if you play man coverage, he gets cooked. Going to go D tier with the card. 91 Wyatt Eckler. Here's where things get tough, because at the free safety position, he's not as good as Downs. He's not as good as Saunders, but I think after those couple of guys, he can absolutely play, because if you upgrade him, he still is 5'11". That's not great. Good in zone coverage, 91 speed, good in run support. He can absolutely play. So I'm going to throw him at the back part of S tier. I still think he's better side by side than Stroman, but he is at the back part of S tier. Xavier Watts, last but certainly not least, for his time, was an absolute stud, was Xavier Watts. And that's something that I want to talk about. But at this stage, especially in zone coverage, he's a beast. At this stage, I don't know, man. I think there just are better and better cards. And so I guess I'll go C tier. Right there with the Honey Badger, but I do not love the card. That's going to wrap it up for our tier list today on the safety position. Let me know your thoughts on it, guys, down below in the comments. Drop a like on it, subscribe if you're new, and as always, man, I love you guys. Have a blessed day.